Not a night goes by that I am not afraid of what I'll dream. I've dealt with it for 25 years, but a few days ago I dreamt something beyond anything I've ever feared. As I write this, I keep darting back at the mangled sheets over my bed, dreading that moment when I can no longer stay awake, when my mind is taking away into another round of otherworldly insanity. I've read somewhere that there are people who cannot remember their dreams. They just turn themselves off once they fall asleep, only to be plucked out of nothingness and back into existence after a cheerful series of chirps coming out of their smartphone in the morning. Sounds awfully peaceful, having such certainty that your dream will end once you wake up. But that's not my case. I like to think that I have some sliver of control over them, but truth be told, I highly doubt I have any. For when I am inside my mind, I am a prisoner. I go where I'm taken and I see what I'm shown. And when I wake up, a part of it comes back with me into this world. I know how it sounds. I know it sounds crazy, and part of me thinks that I belong in a mental institute. I used to be a skeptic, just like you. I thought that my dreams were nothing more than a concoction of some childhood trauma that I had buried off for no reason, until I saw 9/11 a few days before it actually happened. I rode on one of the planes. I could hear the men yammering, the women hiding their heads under the seats in front of them, some of them sobbing, some of them praying to God for deliverance. A kid on the back of the plane was crying his eyes out. In a way, I believe he was crying for all of us. When we approached over to a pair of monolithic tall towers which I'd never seen before, the men with the black bandanas started whispering in a foreign tongue. I then heard a loud bang, followed by an overwhelming heat and a cloud of smoke, a chorus of piercing shrieks, and finally nothing. Darkness. When I woke up, I dismissed it as just some horrible nightmare. A few days later, however, as I was playing with my brother on the front porch, I could hear my parents' voice grow into an exchange of turmoil. My brother and I rushed back inside. We found both of them sitting on an old green sofa, with their eyes glued to CNN. The towers I'd seen on my dream some night ago were enveloped by a thick fog of soot. Another plane then flew into them like a bird crashing into a window. My mother gasped and covered her mouth as a faint whimper escaped from her lips. "My God," my father muttered. "I wish I could tell you that 9/11 was the worst dream I've ever had. It's not. Not even close. There's something worse than any war we've ever waged with one another. Worse than any plague we've succumbed to. Worse than any being that could be harbored in this gentle planet. And it's coming." The first time I saw it, I was frozen against my will in time and space. I was suspended in a vacuum of black. I was nothing more than a ghost stuck in an infinity of darkness. A thunder emerged out of the void, along with several shards of obsidian glass. There was a crack forming in one of the ends of my seemingly endless enclosure. Another thunder displaced my senses as a rain of the same obsidian glass bursted out of the newly formed rift. The hole was now big enough to see a gelatinous mass on the other side, trying to jam itself through the microscopic hole. A mesh of wails and alien howls blasted out in every direction. The gap started quivering and pulsing, breaking off into a bigger opening. A tendril made its way through the crack. At the end of it, there was a set of jaws with curved, serrated teeth. It chomped away at the fissure, creating an even larger hole. Suddenly, the grotesque probe engorged like a balloon, and with one final cry of anguish, it exploded into a cloud of guts and blood, spreading bits and pieces of itself across the black yonder. Some of them strayed away back into the hole, but most of them carried off. Some even drifted behind me into the vast nothingness. 3 more tendrils spurted through the cavity, then 4, 5, 6, 12, 28. They outgrew the hole, which in a matter of seconds shattered completely and gave way to the cruising abomination. Judging by its sheer size, it could have swallowed whole galaxies in one single gulp with any of its protruding maws. An assortment of 1,000 limb-like lobes thrashed around its flaps of molten purple skin crust. Countless mouths fused all over its body gnash the husk of flesh, peeling off of it, while others discharge a crimson flame out into the void. It reminded me of an old factory that should have closed a long time ago, with its heavy fumes escaping out of its labyrinthine flues, and millions of twitching, bloodshot eyes overseeing the whole maddening operation. If it was indeed alive, it made no notion of intelligence, of any other purpose or resolve other than devouring and expelling its own revolting being. A cacophony of disgruntled shrieks emanated out of it. Had I not known any better, it sounded as if it was singing its very own sickening lullaby, in the same way a miner hums as he smashes his pickaxe against the ore. To my ears, however, these disemboweled shouts pierced and twisted like daggers inside my brain. In between one of my many waves of pain, I could see something bright escaping out of the putrid pipes of this amorphous behemoth. It exuded an immeasurable amount of heat and light. A star, perhaps. The star escaped out of its maws as fierce flare arcs burned the end of it. A pain-infused cry blared out of its many mouths, followed by a festering discharge of grey vomit. There was something odd about this fluid, though. The solid bits of it started tumbling into one another, creating bigger and larger crumbs of rock. Soon these boulders started to journey around the star that had just escaped out of this deformed mechanical beast. The rest of the ooze poured itself into the fierce star, which in turn pulsed heatwaves throughout the rocks circling around. The whole spectacle looked oddly familiar, and in a stroke of genius, as some might say, I realized what I was watching. This thing was creating a solar system. The violet Leviathan then drifted away into the nothingness, completely oblivious of its creation, disregarding it in the same way an animal disregards its feces. As it sailed into the distance, I managed to see another sun escape from out of its purulent pipes. The thought that we were nothing more than a waste product of its disgusting biological process couldn't even begin to fit in my head. I then woke up, bathed in cold sweat, alone in my one-bedroom apartment, far, far away from that onslaught of horror, and back under a warm blanket of heat in San Francisco. The air was the same. The people were a tad more rushed and brisk in their walk, but being a midweek morning, everything seemed normal, but yet something had changed. Everything felt so pointless, so trivial. I had never really thought about it, but there is a certain futility in the way we drone in our jobs, in the way we talk to others and make fickle plans, in the way time passes us so quickly, and how minuscule our footprint is in this cold and dark vastness. I always assumed that a part of me, a part of us, were part of a bigger scheme. This vision now lay shattered by the horrific truth. As a man of science, I couldn't accept it. As a Catholic, I couldn't accept it. As a human being, I couldn't accept it. And so on that sunny afternoon, after a harsh day at the office and almost getting laid off, I drank my whole bottle of Chivas Regal. I was saving it for a special occasion. I realized our humiliating existence was not exactly a reason to celebrate, but as my father used to tell me, there are times to celebrate and times to forget. At some point of my self-destructive drinking heist, I must have passed out. I now stood on an impossibly high hill, dominated by tall grass. The sun shone weakly as a circle of black mass had placed itself in the center of it, making it look like our star was hollow. I immediately thought of my old friend, Samuel Cole. I could almost hear him whispering into my ear, "It's an eclipse, you numbnuts." I wondered if he had become an astronomer. He would always blabber about space and the other worlds, how we would evolve into a species that would conquest the secrets of the universe. How could someone so smart be so wrong? A piercing screech shook my whole body upright. Something peeked at the edge of the sun. As I squinted my eyes, trying to make it out, my heart dropped. It was a set of curved, serrated fangs. The sun disappeared into a gurgle of lights. The same disembodied shrieks and howls I'd heard on that night boomed over the whole world. I could see the tendrils, the maws, the eyes. The unnamed beast was back, and like a dog that comes back to eat its own vomit, it gulped everything back inside, as it shouted out that grating, jangled song. I watched in terror as the merciless hecatomb of mankind devoured everything. The sun, the planets, the stars, everything crammed themselves together inside its belly. We were then all burned alive by the same flames that allowed us to live. And as we were consumed into ash and dust, a new tiny star was released out of the caverns of its guts. Then a cry of pain, and then that same great discharge flowed out of it. I woke once more, this time with tears in my eyes and a broken chart of the bottle I was drinking. The rest of the bottle laid in pieces on the rug of my living room. I couldn't control myself as I sobbed for hours. I write this as a confession, as a warning of things to come. Whether you choose to believe me or not, it doesn't matter. You will die regardless. I don't know when this will happen. I wish I did, but I don't. The only thing I can tell you is that it happened during a solar eclipse. If I were you, I'd make peace with everyone I know and love. It may be your last chance, since there's an eclipse tomorrow. What terrifies me the most about this dream is that, as a man of faith, I expected for God to come to our rescue. I hoped with all my heart for Him to swoop in and destroy that ungodly living nightmare. But He never did. Not even when women cried in anguish as they had to watch their children burst into flames. Not even when men tore away chunks of their own skin trying to escape the hellfire. Not even when babies burned and melted onto their own cribs while suffocating with the smoke seeping out of their own bodies. God never showed up.